Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. Today, we are going to talk about the most played cards in Standard. Now, with that caveat, let's not forget we've already had the Pro Tour, so forth and so on. And some of these cards you may not have seen on the Pro Tour, per se. But this is from a metagame scenario, and sometimes the Pro Tour does not always, we'll say, capture that. So, from all the decks and the data I've seen online from several different websites and what have you, these are the cards that I see have popped up the most in an order of number 10 to number 1, 1 being the most played card. So, with all that in mind, let's not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Comments down below will feed that YouTube algorithm. Also, links in the description for a way to support the channel. Become a YouTube member for as little as $1, or check out the eBay TCG player store and all that good jazz. So, let's get into it. So, coming in at number 10, we have Sunfall. This did make a very good appearance at the Pro Tour. In the big mana decks with Up the Beanstalk as their, we'll say, go-to removal spell, as it does exile. It prevents people from doing things like graveyard manipulation and what have you, so also giving the opponent who cast it a creature they can activate to actually do some damage later. And because of that, this card is seeing lots of play in most decks with white. But to be pretty honest, mainly the Beanstalk decks. Now, coming in at number 9, believe it or not, is Flood Farm Verge. A white-blue land. This is new out of Duskmourn. Seeing a lot of standard play, and the price does reflect that. Again, seeing that play in those Up the Beanstalk style decks, as those decks do normally use a lot of blue-white cards in general. So, very interesting, but seeing a lot of play in Standard nonetheless. Moving on, next we have Torch the Tower, our first red card on the list at number 8. Torch the Tower is from Wilds of Eldraine, sees a lot of play in the Gruul aggro, mouse aggro style decks. Gruul aggro is one of the more popular, but to be fair, any red deck is playing this card for the ability. It does 2 damage, yes, but if you do happen to sacrifice an artifact or enchantment, it being able to deal 3 damage and let you scry 1 is a definite good bonus. But the big one for this one is if a creature dealt damage this turn by the torch would die, they get exiled. So if you're blocking something that's, let's say, a 5/5, and it's not, and your creature's not big enough to kill it, but the torch finishes it off, the creature is still exiled. And just the ability to do the exiling is a big deal for this format of Standard. So next, coming in, Temporary Lockdown at number 7. With all the aggro decks that are running wild through Standard right now, again, mouse aggro, mouse Gruul aggro, red, green aggro in general, a lot of those cards and those aggro decks are 2 or less, and Temporary Lockdown can wipe all of them out for the low cost of 3 mana. Again, this does see a lot of play in the Up the Beanstalk decks, but any deck playing white that is a mid-range style deck is going to be playing this card, and this card is seeing lots of it. Moving on, next, coming in at number 6, we have the Obstinate Baloth. Obviously, discard spells are a thing, and to be fair, the ability to put this into play for free plus gain the life off of it is amazing. And worst case scenario, if you are playing against those aggro decks, no, they won't make you discard it, but a 4 mana 4/4 is going to give you like 5 life is a good way to level the battlefield against those quick, fast aggro decks. Next, we have Get Lost. For a white and 1, the ability to kill a creature, enchantment, or planeswalker, with the only drawback of making map tokens for the opponent, which they may or may not be able to use, is an amazing removal spell. Plus, it's at instant speed. Not only is this being played in the Up the Beanstalk decks, but any deck playing white, no matter what its construction type is using this very versatile card throughout the format of Standard. As well, it is probably currently one of the best removal spells that we have, as it targets almost everything, and at an instant speed with a cheap cost with a 1 mana starter in white. The other can be colorless. It fits in any deck playing white. Moving on, in at number 4, we have Overlord of the Mistmoors. Now, with that being said, this does see Up the Beanstalk play, which makes it really popular, but the other Overlords haven't made the list yet, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But this also sees play in other decks, just where white cards are just that good. Mainly because the 2/1 white flying creature tokens you get are amazing. And if you're animating this in some way, shape, or form, after you put it out for 4, being able to swing and getting 2/1 blockers is just probably the best you're going to get. Yes, getting land is also cool, but it comes into play tapped. The red one is sweet, but 4 damage doesn't always kill things on the other side. Sometimes your opponent, but with all that being said and done, just being able to generate extra 2/1s that can block every turn, giving you the ability to swing in for free, plus being a 6/6, makes this probably one of the better Avatar horrors that came out of Duskmourn. Coming in at number 3, Rest in Peace. That's right. This reprint into one of these special slots in Thunder Junction sees lots of play, as you knew it would, from all of the graveyard shenanigan decks. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but there was a really sweet black-green Golgari deck that had a lot of graveyard manipulation, where if you had things in your graveyard, the creatures that came out were really large, or the ability for you to cast those creatures that had a high mana cost were reduced because of creatures in your graveyard and whatnot, making this a very good card. But also, it prevents people from getting cards back, graveyard shenanigans in general. So it has become a pretty good staple in almost every deck playing white as a sideboard item, because, well, if you eliminate all the graveyards, it's kind of hard to just play with what you got, especially if the cards you're playing get their power, toughness, and what have you, and their castability from your graveyard. Coming in at number 2, believe it or not, it's Negate. But it makes sense. We just had Aether Revolt come out, lots of artifacts and what have you, vehicles that are not creatures, non-creature spells in general. The Pro-Tour deck, all those things are creature spells, so you can't really negate them. However, Up the Beanstalk, the other cards, excuse me, all the white removal from that deck, the Wraths, all that can be negated, and makes playing 1 or 2 of these as a starter, plus some more in the sideboard, pretty good. And it's kind of really slid in that spot where, well, basically it is the counterspell of Standard now. So, with all that taken into consideration, what could be number 1? Believe it or not, it is Beza, the Bounding Spring. Again, popular in the Beanstalk decks, not because it's 5 mana or more, because it's just that good. It coming in, allowing you to gain life against the aggro decks while giving you a 4/5 for 4 mana, plus 2 fish creature tokens that you can block the aggro decks with, plus the ability to draw cards against any deck that's card hoarding against you. If you're behind, like, this thing just seems to do it all. You get treasures if your opponent has more lands. It's just amazing what this card can do. And because of that, it's holding strong as a $10 mythic in the current Standard and format. So, and to be fair, a 4-mana 4/5 in white is really good because it's just not something we get very often. And if any of the abilities trigger on it, it's just so much better. And it doesn't even cost anything other than help you get out from being behind, which is definitely something that white struggles with. I mean, this thing is so good, it's being seen in white weenie, if you can call this a white weenie card. But there you have it. There you have it, friends. Those are the top king cards seeing play in standard right now. As far as the most played, that doesn't mean that these are the best cards, but it does mean that out of all the deck archetypes out there, these are the cards most often seen in all those decks across a field. So the odds you playing against these cards when you're in a standard tournament are very, very high. So play accordingly. Like to give a quick shout out to my friend Sawyer. He's a hell of a guy and appreciate him being a sponsor of the channel. So until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table. It kind of makes me wonder if somebody just made a deck with all 10 of these cards in it just for giggles and just like skewed all the data. That'd be funny. Anyway.